everyone. Welcome to Sunday's lesson. Today we are talking about stones. And right now I am sitting in the middle of one of my favorite stone piles because it's at my house. I've got big stones. I've got kind of funny looking stones. This one's kind of white and looks a little marbly. I've got small stones. I've got really big stones, which I can't pick up. I've got some odd bit stones, ones that are a little bit more rounded. Well, today's lesson is about a man named Stephen. And he was a follower of Jesus. Our lesson today comes from Acts chapter 6, verses 8 through the end of the chapter, and then chapter 7 all the way to verse 60. So it's a little long, so I won't read it to you, but I will tell you a little bit about it. You know, Stephen was a follower of Jesus. He was right around the time when Jesus went back to heaven, and he loved God so much he wanted to tell other people about him. But the people were being kind of mean. It says here that he helped with helping to feed people. And then he also told people about Jesus. It says here that Stephen was full of faith and power and did great wonders and signs all among the people. Isn't that wonderful? What a great legacy that is. Then it says that there were some people who were mad at Stephen because Stephen was just happy and was trying to help everyone. And it says here that there were people who told things that were not true about him. It says he says, we have heard him say that this Jesus of Nazareth will destroy this place and change the customs. Well, they didn't want things to change. They wanted things to be the same way they were. So they did not like Stephen at all. And then it ended up that Stephen had to go before all of those mean people. And they said, is this true? And Stephen then decided he was going to share all about God. They were there anyway, and they were listening to him, so he told them all about God. And he went on and on. And you know what happened? People heard about it, and then they grind their teeth at him. They were just saying, oh, you can't be right. That's not right. And then the people started to pick up rocks. They were holding rocks. They were so angry. They were gnashing their teeth at him, like that. And they were holding rocks. And when some of them who had coats on, threw them at the feet of a man named Saul. They just threw their coats down on the ground right in front of a man named Saul. And that's who we're going to talk about next week. But Stephen was still going and telling people that Jesus loved them. And people were picking up rocks. And then they started to do something very unkind. They started to throw these rocks at him. I could just hear it now. You could hear the rocks hitting each other as they threw them at Stephen. And they were being so mean in the way, "Arr!" And they were saying, "Arr!" And they were throwing them at Stephen. And what was Stephen's response? Did Stephen yell at them back, stop it? No. Did Stephen just get angry back and go, back? No. Did he cry? Well, maybe he did, because it really hurts to be hit with rocks. He got hit with rocks so much that he got buried by the rocks. But before he did, it says here that Stephen was calling on God and saying to God, please, Lord, forgive them of this sin. And when he had said this, he fell asleep. Isn't that amazing? That God took him and just let him go to sleep. And Stephen was covered with these terrible, heavy, painful rocks. Now remember, Stephen asked God to forgive them of their sin. But you know, forgiveness is something that you need to ask for by yourself. Mr. Pablo can't ask forgiveness for my sin. He can, But I need to ask forgiveness for my sins. So when I do things that are wrong, it shouldn't be Mr. Pablo asking forgiveness for them. It should be me. I need to ask forgiveness for my sins. So remember that maybe when you do things that are not so kind, like these people who threw rocks, that you need to ask forgiveness. Now, sometimes we do things that are unkind, and sometimes our words are a little bit like rocks. They hurt. Just make sure that we don't do that. Now, let's talk about what we saw in Stephen. Stephen was very brave, wasn't he, to tell others about Jesus. He was brave. He was full of faith in God, that God would take care of him. He was full of love for God, and he was full of forgiveness for the people who hurt him. Now, forgiveness just means that he wasn't going to hurt the people back. He wasn't going to hurt them back for hurting him. That's a good thing to try to learn, is not to hurt the people back that hurt you. So Stephen was very brave. Now I've got 3 questions for you to go over with your families. And maybe you can stop the video and talk about it, or maybe you could just talk about it afterwards, okay? So question number 1 is this. Does God still love us when things turn out sadly or badly? Does God still love us? Well, moms and dads, you can turn to Romans 8:28 and discuss what that says. Does God still love us when things turn out sadly? All right, question number 2. Are you ready? Question number 2 is, how should we treat people who are mean or unkind because we are followers of Christ? That's a little different than being mean and unkind back to somebody who's being mean and unkind, right? So this is, well, how should we treat people who are mean and unkind because we are followers of Christ? You can find a little bit of the answer in Matthew chapter 5, verse 44. And at least that helps a little bit to explain what our response should be. All right, there's one more question. So question number 3 says, what are some situations that require us to be brave and strong like Stephen? Wow, that's a hard question. What are some times that need us to be brave and strong just like Stephen? Sometimes I remember I have to be brave and strong when I go to the dentist, because sometimes I have to get shots, so I have to be brave and strong. But there are other times I have to be brave and strong when people are being mean to me. I've got to keep my chin up. I've got to remember that Jesus loves me, and I've got to forgive. That requires me to be brave and strong. Well, Stephen died, and I know that Stephen went to heaven to be with Jesus. So that's our story for today. Next week is about Saul. And before we go, let's practice our memory verse for the month of May just once, okay? Are you ready? It's Hebrews 10, verses 24 and 25. It says, let us think about each other and help each other to show love and do good deeds. You should not stay away from the church meetings as some are doing, but you should meet together and encourage each other. Do this even more as you see the day coming. All right, that was Hebrews 10, verses 24 and 25. Well, I'm so glad you could join me on top of my rock pile. I hope you have a wonderful week. Stay safe and see you next time. Bye.